everyone, my name is Lia Ta-Asan and today I will be discussing the various theories of language acquisition. The following are the cognitive, discourse, monitor, social interaction, and variable competence theory. So, language acquisition is the process by which we develop and learn certain language. This generally includes speaking, listening, writing, and overall communication. The importance of understanding the aspects of language acquisition is the forerunner or the underlying reason for comprehending the human mind. Understanding the formation of this uniqueness is important because communication ability is unique to human species. By analyzing the procedure of language acquisition, not only can an individual learn how to raise his or her children in a manner that would be cognitively stimulating, but it could also allow the progression of human thought in a manner that would lead to further evolution of mental processing. These various theories each have their own special background and support, yet there are limitations to each one. The theories of language acquisition are not holistically applicable. However, they have formidable support from case studies, neurological research, and observational studies. So the first one is the cognitive theory. For the process of language acquisition, especially when acquiring more than one language, the younger is the better. According to Harris in 2005, children progress through various landmarks in their understanding of mind and also in emotion. They eventually understand that people's actions, utterance, and emotions are determined by their beliefs. Although these insights emerge in all normal children, individual children vary the rates of progress. The cognitive language acquisition theory uses the idea that children are born with very little cognitive abilities, meaning that they are not able to recognize and process very much information. At birth, infants are very limited to a very small scope of mental processes that must be developed over time. So, as an infant grows to become a toddler, the cognitive processes of a child develop through various experiences that the child goes through. The foundations of cognitive theory of language acquisition were laid by Jean Piaget, a French developmental psychologist. His theory was that language acquisition was based on the maturation of brain. Piaget believed that children should be allowed to explore the world by themselves, giving them first-hand experience. This exposure to the world allows the cognitive mind to develop, therefore, allowing language to develop in more sophisticated manner, which becomes the strength of this theory. However, there is a flaw with the cognitive theory of language acquisition in relation to individuals that have a genetic disorder or mental disability. Since the theory depends so heavily on the intellect of the individual, there could be a discrepancy as to the cognitive ability of an individual with the linguistic capabilities that he or she expresses. If the theory were to be regularly followed, that would support the finding that those with lower intellect levels, such as IQ scores, would have lower language abilities. However, this is not the case. There have been instances where there have been genetic disorders that have caused individuals with extraordinary talents but inhibited those individuals' lower cognitive skills. An example of one of those variations would be the individuals that have Williams syndrome. This Williams syndrome is a genetic disorder that occurs in every 20,000 births. In Williams syndrome, individuals express extraordinary talent in verbal, social, and musical abilities while maintaining low IQ scores and having difficulty in motor processing functions. Cases like Williams syndrome demonstrate that the cognitive theory is not holistically true. There are exceptions to this theory, therefore, the complete validity cannot be placed on cognitive theory. Proceeding to the next theory, we have the discourse tree. Discourse tree refers to the process in which a language can be learned by communicating with the target language speaker. From a theory of a language use, in which communication is treated as a matrix of linguistic knowledge, it follows that language development should be considered in terms of how learners discover the meaning potential of language by participating in communication. The primary method of learning is through active interaction with native speaker of the target language. We should need exposure that makes us accustomed to using the target language. According to Halliday in 1975, It shows that the development of formal linguistic devices for realizing basic language function grows out of the interpersonal uses to which language is put. It can be learned through learning to communicate. However, discourse theory does not address the nature of the learner's strategies for responsible for second language acquisition. When Hatch talks of the processes, she means external but not internal. Those which can be observed in face-to-face interaction. Internal processes can be observed through learner performance. The next theory is the monitor theory by Dr. Stephen Krashen. The monitor hypothesis explains the relationship between acquisition and learning, the influence of the latter on the former. The monitoring function is the practical result of the learned grammar. According to Krashen, the acquisition system is the utterance initiator, while the learning system performs the role of the monitor and the editor. The monitor acts as planning, editing, and correcting function when three specific conditions are met. So the first condition is the second language learner has enough time. The second is they concentrate on form or consider the correctness. And lastly, they understand the rules. Monitor model theory suggests that we should both strive to increase our second language inputs like viewing videos or even television and going through books for reading, and make sure we receive proper error correction in one form or another. Krashen claims that there are implications for foreign language teaching practices. That is to say, research predicts that certain characteristics must be present in order to have successful second language teaching programs. The programs must have abundant comprehension input. The programs will not force students to speak before they are ready to speak, and the programs must emphasize the fact that grammar rules have their place within second language teaching and should not overshadow the understanding of the message. The next theory is the social interaction theory. The social interaction theory considers language acquisition to be a result of negotiating with your environment to represent the recurrent regularities that occur. It also proposes the idea that the culture and environment in which a language is being learned are highly influential in individuals' development. This theory is completely a contradiction to John Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Piaget suggests that development in the cognitive ability of a child is a result of independent exploration and personal experiences. On contrary, Vygotsky in his theory explains that development in cognitive ability as a result of learning via increasing social interaction and communication. Unlike Piaget's view that development must necessarily precede learning, Vygotsky stated that learning is a stepping stone to a higher level of cognitive abilities, and hence development succeeds learning. Although social interaction theory provides an altogether different perspective on the topic of cognitive development, there are certain weaknesses to his theory that should not be overlooked. Firstly, because it doesn't provide a precise picture of the learning ability, style, and pace of learning, or the current level of development. It doesn't take into consideration individual differences, and it is too general. This is also evident from the absence of common metric scale to measure an individual child's zone. Secondly, the theory underestimates the ability of individuals, showing much greater emphasis on socio-cultural effects. Too much help and assistance could make an individual lazy and accustomed to expecting help with tasks that he or she can easily accomplish. And lastly, as the theory gives a single model of development, it fails to take into consideration the different developmental levels. Children's interests, needs, and abilities vary at different ages, which influences the type of learning they seek out and the effects it has on them. Hence, each developmental level proves to be of great significance in the child's cognitive development as a whole. And the last theory to be discussed is the variable competence theory. The variable competence model of second language acquisition proposes that under tangibility of language vary systemically within functional domains and linguistic contexts, and that such variability is inherent to language as well. The model is based on two distinctions, one of which refers to the process of language use, and the second refers to language products. Language Language use is to be understood in terms of the distinction between linguistic knowledge, and it refers to competence and capacity. The following is from the process of language use of the product. Number one is variable competence. Example is the user processes a heterogeneous rule system. Number two is a variable application of procedures for actualizing knowledge in discourse. To summarize, the variable competence model proposes number one, there is a single knowledge core containing variable interlanguage rules according to how automatic and how analyzed the rules are. Number two, the learner processes a language use capacity comprised of primary and secondary discourse or secondary and cognitive process. And number three, language 2 performance is a variable. Number 4, development occurs as a result of the acquisition of language 2 rules participation in various types of discourse. Activation of language 2 rules that are initially in either a non-automatic, disanalyzed, or analyzed form so that they can be used in unplanned discourse. So that would be all for today. I hope you learned something, and let's see you on my next video. Click subscribe, like, and comment down. Bye!